The Balanced Biblical Position, Refuting Both Calvinism and Arminianism. By Glen Williamson. Introduction.
The theological debate between Calvinism and Arminianism has long divided the Christian community. While both systems attempt to reconcile divine sovereignty and human responsibility, they often fall into extremes that fail to fully align with the biblical teachings. This presentation aims to demonstrate that the biblical position lies in neither Calvinism nor Arminianism, but rather in a balanced perspective that harmonizes these viewpoints. By examining various biblical proofs, we can find a convincing argument for a middle ground that upholds both God's sovereignty and human responsibility.
Refutation of Calvinism.
Calvinism, rooted in the teachings of John Calvin, emphasizes the absolute sovereignty of God in salvation. It asserts that God elects certain individuals for salvation, irrespective of their choices or actions. While this view acknowledges God's power and authority, it neglects the biblical principle of human responsibility. One crucial biblical proof against Calvinism is found in 1 Timothy 2, verse 4, which states, "Who will have all men to be saved, and to come unto the knowledge of the truth." This verse clearly demonstrates God's desire for all to be saved, suggesting that He does not predestine some for damnation. Additionally, John 3, verse 16 affirms that whosoever believeth in Him should not perish, but have everlasting life. The use of whosoever indicates that salvation is available to all, not just a select few. Furthermore, the Bible consistently emphasizes the importance of human choice and decision-making in matters of faith. Joshua 24, verse 15 declares, "Choose you this day whom you will serve," highlighting the responsibility of individuals to make a personal decision for God. This notion aligns with the concept of free will, which Calvinism tends to undermine.
Refutation of Arminianism.
Arminianism, on the other hand, emphasizes human free will and cooperation with God's grace in the process of salvation. While this perspective acknowledges human responsibility, it often downplays God's sovereignty and tends to elevate human effort to a salvific level. However, biblical proofs challenge the Arminian notion that human effort plays a decisive role in salvation. Ephesians 2, verses 8 and 9 states, "For by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast." This passage emphasizes that salvation is solely a result of God's grace, received through faith, and not a product of human works. It highlights the necessity of divine intervention in the process of salvation. Moreover, Romans 9, verse 16 clarifies this point by asserting, "So then it is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of God that showeth mercy." This verse underscores that salvation does not depend on human will or effort, but is ultimately an act of divine mercy. While human cooperation is essential, it does not supersede God's sovereignty.
The Biblical Middle Ground.
The biblical position lies in a balanced perspective that upholds both God's sovereignty and human responsibility. The Scriptures affirm both the divine initiative in salvation and the necessity of human faith and response. Acts 16:31 encapsulates this perspective, stating, "Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, and thou shalt be saved." This verse highlights the synergistic relationship between God's grace and human faith, where God initiates salvation and individuals respond through faith.
Conclusion.
Both Calvinism and Arminianism convey extreme views, and both extremes fail to fully align with the biblical teachings on salvation. By examining various biblical proofs, we find a convincing argument for a balanced perspective that constitutes the biblical position. This perspective upholds God's sovereignty while acknowledging human responsibility and the necessity of faith. By embracing this middle ground, Christians can foster unity and embrace the richness of both divine sovereignty and human free will.